Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About Clutter. I'm your host, Margo, a professional organizer specializing in chronic clutter. I hope you all had an incredible holiday season and a fantastic new year. And now that the new year is upon us, we probably want to roll up our sleeves and meet those New Year's resolutions of finally achieving a clutter-free, clean, and tidy home. And that is why in today's podcast, I want to go through some popular decluttering systems that I have personally tried, and I'll tell you what I thought of them, the pros and the cons, and specifically who they work best for. My hope is that you already created a decluttering plan, and now it's really about figuring out where you're going to start, what style of decluttering you're going to use that fits you, your personality. When I first began my decluttering journey, it was about 7 years ago. I had just gotten divorced and felt like my home was suffocating me. Let me know if you can relate. All the items that reminded me of my ex-husband felt toxic and, quite frankly, gave me a ton of anxiety. I was looking for a very extreme way of getting rid of my stuff, and I found it in our first method. You probably have all heard of it, Swedish Death Cleaning. Now, questioning my mortality was probably not great for my psyche at the time, but it did help me ruthlessly get rid of a lot of stuff. For those of you who are maybe not too familiar with the Swedish death cleaning method, it's essentially getting rid of anything and everything that you don't need, with the sole purpose of ensuring that your loved ones don't have a lot of unnecessary stuff to go through when you're gone. You are encouraged to limit your sentimental stuff and maybe merely pack it up in one memory box, label it, and this way your family will know to dispose of it should they choose to do so. It is a great method for someone not necessarily approaching old age, but rather wanting to transition to a more minimalistic lifestyle, which, in all honesty, that is not what I was going for. I am not a minimalist in any way, shape, or form, well, with the exception of my wardrobe. But maybe this is probably why this method, for me, did not sustain me for the long haul. My first month of using it, I decluttered way too much stuff. At first, I thought I just couldn't find my shoes, but it turned out I had donated them all when I was using this extreme method. And I'm not going to lie, my shoes were not the only things I over decluttered. Where in the world did the frying pan go? So how do we use this method? It's really about connecting to what we keep and what we let go of. It's less about those maybe piles. So you start with the less sentimental stuff and work your way through your entire home. A great place to start is with clothing. So does it fit? Do I wear it? If the answer is no, out it goes. Next, you might want to go through your furniture, focusing on getting rid of items that take up the most amount of space. That's also a great idea because if you want to achieve that clutter-free home, focusing on those large, bulky items is a quick way to do it. Then you essentially work your way down to the smaller items, and you can go by room or by category, whatever works best for you. And of course, don't forget your digital clutter. If you're looking to downsize and kind of live a more intentional life free of ties to possessions, this method is quite fantastic. It ties into, less consumerism, mindful purchasing, and living a life of quality over quantity. It's really about truly living with less, making both maintaining your home and life so much easier. I read somewhere that practicing Swedish death cleaning is like living on a diet, and I found that to be quite appropriate. Your home is on a strict diet of essentials only. The pros are that it really forces you, if done right, to get rid of a lot of stuff. The cons are you're still alive, and well, some of us enjoy our trinkets. Let me know what you think of this method. So, the next method is loved by some and not so much by others. When I started using it, I immediately hit a dead end. Okay, I'm probably not selling this method right off the start. But again, these are my personal opinions on the methods. So When I started this method, we are instructed or guided to declutter by category. And oh my clothing at the time was in different areas of the house. So were the books, the cleaning supplies, the beauty products. You get where I'm going with this. And yes, fast forward to today, I myself preach that items around our home should be kept with their peers and where we use them, not all over the house. But when I was first starting out, my home was in chaos, and decluttering by category seemed like it was going to take forever. I literally went on a Sherlock Holmes expedition trying to track down categories of items all over the house. This had my anxiety soaring high, and full transparency, my therapist on speed dial. This method is the KonMari method, and it involves decluttering by category rather than by location. And this is something that really works well for some, but not for others. It's really psychological. If categories and organization resonates with you, then the KonMari system is a great fit. While decluttering, we are instructed to only keep those items that spark joy. Now, not gonna lie, the spark joy thing is kind of nice, but I'm not really sure that when I picked up my spatula, it sparked much joy when I held it. I waited and waited and waited, and nothing happened. While I couldn't necessarily relate to each individual item making me feel warm and fuzzy inside, I did love the overall concept and teach it to my clients today of surrounding yourselves with things that make you happy. Remember, guys, clutter-free is subjective, and what's cluttered to one person is treasure to the next, and that is completely okay. I found this method to be very gentle in that sparks joy can be applied to many items in the home. So for me, it works great for folks who are not ready to let go of too much stuff, but are looking for a way to go through their things a little at a time. It's incredibly effective for the sentimental personality type in that it emphasizes an emotional connection with possessions. The con is that you might still be left with a lot of things. All right, on to the next decluttering strategy. This next decluttering strategy came to me in a dream. I'm just kidding. I don't think it has a person it's dedicated to actually, but to me, it's the most practical approach and has enough flexibility to essentially work for anyone. It's also one that when paired with the Pomodoro technique is the easiest to partake in, both for the soul and for the sake of time. It's the one room at a time in 15 to 30 minute increments. So essentially, you would systematically go through room by room from start to finish. And this actually helps you see results, thereby increasing motivation. Something about finishing a project, or in this case, a room, just feels incredible. You can simply list out all of the rooms with clutter and start with your top priority, typically your eye twitch area, or, some of us might call it the high traffic zone. For many of us women, it is the kitchen, the bedroom, or master closet. I started my journey in the kitchen. I broke the room up into smaller, more manageable sections. So for example, the drawer, the fridge, the pantry, the cabinet, the oven, the freezer, the table. And then using the Pomodoro technique, I set a timer for 25 minutes and decluttered 4 days a week. This for me worked the best. I wasn't thinking about mortality or sparking joy. I operated under a mixture of, do I use it? Will I use it? Does it make me happy? I guess it was a mix of emotional and practical application. This method is also systematic and produces results. It's relaxed, allowing you the opportunity to figure out what you need and why. A con of this is that each room might require multiple go-arounds to fully get rid of those things that we truly don't need because we are not necessarily being ruthless like Swedish Death Cleaning. A major pro is that it's a realistic method that can fit seamlessly into anyone's schedule. One room at a time method is great for anybody really, whether you're starting out or going for round 3 or 4 on your home and would rather run sprints rather than marathons. The next two are really targeting beginners. So it's really for all of you who are struggling and are who are kind of overwhelmed by the big picture of all the clutter in your home and really want to start small. You want to ease your way into the decluttering process. You want to kind of really see that it's not as scary as we think. It's not as overwhelming as we think. And these two are great ways to kind of build motivation and momentum. And the first one is merely one item a day. I think that every single one of us can find one item a day to get rid of it. And it should be quick, easy toss decisions. It shouldn't be sentimental items that you're scooping up. It could be like you saw a piece of paper or a magazine or a newspaper that you don't need. You recycle it. You saw a trinket on a shelf or a broken picture frame. You don't need it. Get rid of it. So one item a day. Yes, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you do it consistently for an entire year, that is 365 items. And most likely, you're not going to do the full year. And most likely, you're going to begin to declutter more than just one item a day. This is why I say it's for beginners. It is a great way to start. And you're going to find yourself graduating to my next decluttering strategy, or even decluttering in 15 to 30 minute increments. So the next decluttering method is the 60-second purge. And this is basically kind of leveling up from one item a day. And this is where you pick up a bag, a box, or a bin, and you walk around your home swiping things off of surfaces that you don't need for 60 seconds. Again, just like with the one item a day, these are quick and easy. Getting rid of it. Don't have to think about it. In the beginning, don't have to donate it. Am not selling it. It's really just focused on getting rid of as much unnecessary surface clutter as we possibly can. And then the last one, I actually learned about this recently. I myself have never practiced this method. So I'm not really sure how effective it is, but I know that some of my members and some of my followers really stand behind this method. So I wanted to put it out there. And it's something called the 12-week decluttering method. And this is where you essentially gradually organize your home over a span of 12 weeks, focusing on specific areas or categories each week. Now, I think that with this one, for a lot of folks, it's going to be very challenging to declutter a room in a week. So I think we have to be very, very realistic about, what we can do given, certain time restraints and such. I think that this one too will require a lot of planning. So, 3 months to declutter an entire home might sound like a lot, but it's actually not. So if you're going to really kind of be vigorous, right? It's the beginning of the year. So we all created the plan to kind of declutter as quickly as possible. So having that kind of 12-week goal in mind can actually be incredibly effective if you are committed to decluttering. But I will highly encourage you that whether you're going by room or by category, you make a to-do list. So once you finish one area or category, you know exactly where to go next. And also, keep in mind, you're also going to have to pencil in, how frequently, realistically, you're going to be doing this. But, 12 weeks sounds like a reasonable time to, get rid of a substantial amount of clutter, and actually incredibly doable if you're committing to decluttering 10 hours a week. So I don't know. Let me know what you think of this final decluttering method. And just something very quickly to be mindful of, it's that, there's no one size fits all, right? I actually have utilized a combination of all of these different types of methods. And you kind of take what feels and what resonates with you from one method and then from the next. And the best way to kind of figure out what works for you is by actually doing it. So I think that sometimes methods sound good in theory. Like for me, Swedish Death Cleaning was like, oh my God, nailed it. Like it connected with me, at that stage of my life. Today, that's not a method I would practice, but you never know, right? In 10 years from now, I might want to transition to a more minimalistic lifestyle, or, my daughter by then will be older. Maybe I want to travel more. Like who knows, right? Who knows where we are in our lives. So we really learn and kind of identify our own unique methodology when we start doing it, right? When we start practicing, when we put this into practice and we begin to declutter, we really kind of then will self-select. And this is something that happens naturally. We will find a method that works for us. So maybe something resonated with you, right? Maybe you want to start with one item a day, and then maybe you want to, move on to decluttering by room, or maybe, you connected with the KonMari method. Whatever works for you, just start. Right? It's the new year. Let's have this year be the year that we all achieve a subjectively clutter-free, clean, and tidy home. Thank you so much for listening. As always, good luck on your decluttering journey, and remember to be good to yourselves.